Today I am upgrading the cheapest DIY custom mechanical keyboard kit. Let's get into it. All right, so this is the Tester 68, and with taxes and shipping, this thing came in at under 29 bucks. That's taxes, shipping, everything from AliExpress. Let's get this thing open. It's called the Tester 68. It's a 65%, that just ripped. It's a 65% form factor, and it comes with PE foam, which is really cool because we're actually gonna use this for modding it. Okay, so right away what I notice is, first of all, these stabilizers look quite good. Just like the color, they look like a Holy Panda kind of thing. So I like that. The top metal plate is nice. I'm pretty sure it's metal, and there is dampening between the plate and the PCB, which is insane. But the other thing is, if you come in here, it's actually a wireless keyboard. And it's not just like wireless. This is only wireless. You can only use this with wireless, and you put in two AAAs. Oh, I hope we have AAAs. I don't know if we have AAAs. We're gonna mod this first though. And then you get a manual on kind of how to turn it on, and then that's it. But they do give you PE foam, so we're gonna use this. Okay, so right away, that's what it sounds like, but it looks like there's case foam as well. Get our handy dandy screwdriver out, and let's start undoing these screws, which are already like kind of pre-opened. They're not quite screwed down super tight, which is nice. Now with all the screws out, let's take this out. Okay, there we go, taking it out. And oh my God, this is a silicone PCB plate dampener. It's silicone. That's insane. Okay, so we might actually have to keep that. I don't know what we're gonna do. So interesting, you see how it's mounted. So the plate is mounted completely separately from the PCB, which is interesting. But let's get this out. There's some more screws on the PCB. Looks like just 2 screws. And then we have the wire and then the case foam. All right, now the wire is kind of tight, so I'm gonna try to pull this out. Okay, finally got this out. Super difficult to get this out, but it's out. You can see we have the on and off switch right there on the bottom, and a fully hot swappable PCB, which is really awesome. Okay, so setting that aside, we're gonna take this case foam directly out because we do not want this. This case foam, it's bad. We might use this as a guide to cutting our new case dampening. Okay, so setting this aside, let's go ahead and do the case. Now what we're gonna use for the case is butyl rubber. And that's like my go-to. I used it in my last build, and I really wanna do it with this build because it's so, like the plastic doesn't sound nice, so I want something thick and really sound absorbent. So this is butyl rubber. It's kind of expensive comparatively to like $1 EVA foam, but it's really thick and dense and heavy rubber, and it's gonna be so good in this. So let's do it. We're gonna cut it out in small sections. So that's almost basically cut out perfectly to the size. So we need to cut it about there. There we go, kind of crooked. And there we go, a little bit tight on the edge. So I'm gonna cut that off. And there we go, that fits in there basically perfectly. So now what we have to do is cut out these little screw holes and make sure that we don't cut this off. And I am just going to use this as a guide to cutting this out. So I'm gonna place this on there, and then I'm gonna know where I need to cut out. Kind of works perfectly that way. I like it. All right, guys, and we finally got all the butyl rubber cut out. As you can see, it is a lot of work to do all of this. And once put into the case, it's going to look like this. So as you can see, you have to cut around all these little teeny pieces in the case to make sure everything fits correctly and everything sets down nicely. So that's what it looks like when it's done. Let's go ahead and reattach the PCB to the wiring. And there we go. With that in, we can put this back into the case. Setting it down in there, it will go through those little holes. And then let's take the 2 screws. One goes up here, one goes up there. Push it down and screw it in. Wait, we forgot an important step. Okay, unscrew. I don't know how I forgot this. We have to do a tape mod. I don't know how I forgot to do that. We gotta take this all back out. It's okay, that's okay though. Except for this wiring harness, that's not okay, it's annoying. Okay, second time it's easier. All right, so take the back of your PCB, lay it down, grab yourself some painter's tape, and what we're basically gonna do is just tape up the back of your PCB. It's really that simple. Now, some people like to do a lot of layers. I like to kind of overlap each layer rather than doing like 4 or 5 layers. So as you can see, I overlap everything. Now, this is gonna be harder to get those screw holes in, so what we're actually gonna do is cut those out after we have all of this laid down. All right, and this is what it should look like. Now what we're gonna do is I'm actually gonna use this piece again, placing that there so I know where all of the holes are. And then I'm literally just gonna take my X-Acto knife and just punch them out. Yeah, that's definitely a hack job. Let's see if it'll work. We're kind of just poking them through like that. All right, now we reconnect the wire in. There we go. connect this in. All right, now that that's in, now we're gonna reconnect the PCB down. So take that little screw, go up here to this screw hole. It should be able to punch right through, and then screw that sucker in. And then the second one, and screw that one down. There we go. Now all that's in there, it's kind of funny because this kind of like moves still. This is a pretty flexy PCB, which actually might be a good thing. So we'll see about that. Okay, so the second thing that I didn't think I would ever have to make this decision of is this is a really nice silicone PCB plate dampener, which is really nice. I mean, for 29 bucks, really less than that, I think it was actually 26. I really wanted to use PE foam to make that creamy sound. I think we're gonna do that. Even though this is such a nice dampener, I think we're gonna do that. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is the stabilizers. Now we're gonna take these puppies out. First, we're gonna see if they're tight in the board. Ooh, these are really tight in the board. For stock stabilizers, plate mounted, whoa, those things are like super tight, which is amazing. Okay, so let's pop these out. They are completely unlubed and they come out really easily. Good sign. All right, now that all of the stabilizers are out, we have the plate and it's a nice and sturdy plate, more than some budget boards from like Red Dragon stuff. Not that those plates aren't sturdy, but this one is, it's solid. It's quite solid. All right, now the stabilizers come completely unlubed, which is fantastic. Also, you can see the bottoms also do not need to be clipped because they are completely flat. So that is also awesome. I wasn't expecting all of this like upper end stuff on a board that was insanely cheap. So to get these apart, if you don't know how to do it, all you're gonna do is take this, unclip it by pushing it up at a 90-degree angle like that, and then pulling out, and then the stem will come out of the housing. And then do the same thing on the other side and separate all of the stems and housings and wires out. All right, there we go. Now the next thing we're gonna do is I think I just wanna lube these rather than holy mod them because they look pretty good. So I don't know, I think we're just gonna lube them. So get some dielectric grease as well as your Krytox 205G0. At least that's what I'm using. You can use whatever you want. And then grab a brush. Now all you're gonna do here is grab your top housing, dip a little bit into that 205G0, and then do the inside walls. How I do it is I dab some on one side, dab some on the other side, and then kind of spread it out. And then grab your stem, and because we're only lubing these, I'm actually gonna lube the stem as well. Just do a little bit of lube on those walls, on the left and right walls. Once you're done with that, take the opening to the housing, as you can see right here, and the side that has 2 holes on your stem, and then insert it that direction. And then to finish it up, obviously do that with all of your stabilizers. Take some of that dielectric grease and your wire, and then insert it into the dielectric grease once, pull it out, and then insert it again past that 90-degree point. And it should look something like that. Then just like you disassembled it, you're going to insert it into the bottom hole at a 90-degree angle, turn it sideways, and there you go. Do that on both sides, do that with all your stabilizers, and that's how you lube them. All right, now that we have all of the stabilizers done, let's put them back into the plate right here, just like we took them out. Now again, remember, you can holy mod them if you want to. Check out my playlist on modding videos if you do want to check that out. Insert them back into the plate. The good thing is these are quite tight, so I don't think we need to band-aid mod these. Now that all those are in, let's get this back onto the case and PCB right here. But before we do that, instead of using, like I said, we're not gonna use this anymore, even though it's so nice, I want to. But no, we're not gonna use this anymore. We are going to use the PE foam that it came in. This is what PE foam looks like. It literally came in this, so you have it as soon as you get it. And this makes the board sound creamy. So if you want it to be creamy, use this, what it comes with, but use that silicone that it came with if you want it to be a more dampening, more silent board. But I want it to be creamy. So first what we're gonna do is kind of get the layout. We're gonna use one edge right here. So that's the first edge. And then all we're gonna do is just cut that side and then the top side. Now I do wanna mention, I'm using both sides. So this kind of opens up. I'm using 2. So that's how we're doing this. Now that we have that done, let's lay this down into the case now. A little bit big, but I don't think that's a problem because there's gonna be so much space between this and that PCB. So now what we're gonna do is cut out the stabilizers, and the way we're gonna do that is I'm gonna put this on the back of this, and I'm literally just gonna cut them out. All right, now that that's all cut out, let's throw this on the board, which is actually gonna go over this way. All right, so once that's all on, we're gonna place this on or in the board. There's a little bit of overhang there, which we're just gonna cut off. All right, and then place that all down there, and then we're gonna screw this in. So take your screwdriver again, and let's screw it in. And you can easily screw right through that PE foam. All right, there we go. Now it is time to put some switches in this. And again, you can see the PE foam right there. We're just gonna poke right through that with the switches. And the switches that we're using, obviously, these are gonna be budget. These are the Akko Jelly Blacks. These are my favorite Akko linear switches overall. Let's use them on this. I'm excited about it. Now, these have been hand lubed by us, but yeah, these switches are absolutely awesome. Let's put them in this board. Do be careful to not bend those pins when you're placing these in there, but as you can see, they go right in, just cut right through the PE foam super easily, right in there, super easy. So the thing that I can say when putting these in, make sure you're putting them in very straight. If you come in and kind of do it like this, you can get away with that at an angle if you're doing a normal hot swap board, but when you have the PE foam in there, make sure you're coming straight down, otherwise it'll bend the pins and then it won't go in. All right, so a slight problem that we've run into is on these keys right here, it's not quite going in because of the PE foam, and I think that's because the plate is kind of pushed up higher in these sections because of the weird mounting mechanism and us shoving a ton of case dampening in there. So I think what we're gonna do is just cut out the PE foam in these areas. I know the sound will be inconsistent, however, it's a cheap board. I don't mind too much. All right, so I did manage to get all of them actually put in. However, if I screw the case down fully, these pop back up in some of the locations, and that's because we filled the case a little bit too much and I didn't do my job quite as perfectly. However, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use these little tiny O-rings. I've used them in another video, and this is kind of gonna be like an O-ring mount. So what we're gonna do is we've already taken out all of the screws for the plate on top. And all we're gonna do is take these little O-rings and you're just gonna slip it around that screw, just like that, and then kind of screw it into itself. Now I will say this is a lot harder than it looks like on camera. These little O-rings are a ton tighter than they look. But the finished product should look like this with a little O-ring around it. This is kind of like a half O-ring mount. And it will take some of the reverberations out of the parts of the screws, which is a good thing. So we're gonna try it on this one section. This is the section that we needed to work on, but we are doing it for the whole thing. So we're gonna screw that in, and there we go. It worked. It smushed down a little bit, so that's great. So now we're gonna do that to all of this. Now with these O-rings, you don't want to torque them down as much as you typically would with no O-rings on them. So they are gonna be a little bit looser than you're expecting probably. And as you can see there, now all of the O-rings are squished down onto that plate and everything's sitting nicely. And now guys, this is time for keycaps. We are using the LTC. You guys have seen them on the channel before. These are some red and white ones. Thought they would go really nicely with this white board. And honestly, I didn't feel like spray painting today because it's raining. All right, but let's get these on the RXDA profile, and they have a good sound profile, which I really like. All right guys, and now it is done. This is what it looks like. Look at that, it looks really good. The XDA profile is very cool. But let's get a really quick sound test before we do the final one. You can look at all the B-roll, look at how cool this thing looks. It looks epic, but let's get a really quick sound test. First reaction. Ooh, that is creamy. It was a good choice doing the PE foam. The stabilizers overall sound good. I tuned them nicely, but if I wanted to do them even better, I would have done a holy mod or something, but oh, listen to that. But listen to the final sound test. Again, if you want to check out any of the stuff that I used to mod this exact same keyboard, as well as the Tester 67, there's Amazon links below, as well as an AliExpress link below to the Tester 67. But take a listen to the sound test in 3, 2, 1, take a listen.